Our students are the future. How we advance innovation and impact and approach equity in their classrooms will determine how we thrive as a world community. The status quo just won't cut it. That's why we're here to break the grade. Hello, breakers and difference makers. I'm Josh Chernikoff, host of How I Broke That. I'm a two-time entrepreneur in the education space, and I've successfully exited both of those companies. I've experienced my fair share of breaks in my life, and I'm here to bring my signature approach to my new show, Breaking the Grade. I'm embarking on this special journey alongside my good friend and mentor, John Gamba, Director of Innovative Programs and Entrepreneur in Residence at Penn GSE. In our podcast, you'll hear from emerging business owners in the education space who are working to transform education as we know it. Tune in as we hear about industry trends, unique principles and practices, and the attempts that have and haven't worked for our grade-breaking guests. So fellow entrepreneurs and educators, what do you think? Are you ready to take a hammer to the education space and break the grade? Welcome to a special summer edition of Breaking the Grade. Yeah, and if you're joining us and you're watching this show, not just listening to it, I've got on bright orange glasses. I've got on a summer-looking shirt, one that is not my favorite, but my wife said, let's get that. It's got your orange. Not my favorite, but you know what? It's just perfect for this special summer edition of Breaking the Grade. So this is called the Summer Fix, how education founders can rebuild lead flow before they go back to school. So let's get something straight. September doesn't start in September. Actually, it starts right now, June, July, and August. Let me say that again. September doesn't start in September. It starts in June, July, and August. What does that mean? Most education founders slow down in the summer. They stop showing up, especially on LinkedIn. They tell themselves, we're going to fix the operations and we're going to fix the product. And guess what happens when they come back in September? They're scrambling because their pipeline is absolutely dry. It's empty. And no one's booking calls with them, even though that nobody, those people who are in your network, those decision makers, they might have needs, and we'll talk more about that. This episode is the Summer Fix. It's your wake-up call if your lead flow is stalled, your calendar's quiet, or you're banking on back-to-school magic, which I've been in this space for 20 years. I've never seen back-to-school magic because hope is honestly not a strategy. And summer is not a break. It's actually a multiplier. So I've seen this mistake actually way too often, especially in the education space. Founders spend all summer building, refining, tweaking that product. But they forget the one thing they actually need to grow the business, which is quality lead flow. Here's what happens. Engagement drops. Founders go quiet, again, especially on LinkedIn. Sales slow to a trickle. And by the time they come back in September, it's already too late. Because the sales cycle in education doesn't wait for you, and it certainly doesn't stop. And if you're not staying visible for your network, for your decision makers, if you're not activating and reactivating those leads and nurturing them all summer, you're going to start Q4 from zero. Now, this episode is your summer reset. By the time we wrap, you will walk with a 3-step framework to rebuild your lead flow without needing 100 new leads. You don't need 100 new leads. Reignite buyer interest. How do you do that? You use the audience and the network you already have. And number 3, show up with confidence and clarity before back to school kicks back in. Because the summer isn't just about staying visible, although that's very important. It's about planting the seeds for September sales. And you say to me, Josh, what the heck are September sales? Well, I'll tell you what they are. Potentially last spring, you thought people ghosted you. Guess what? They didn't. Your decision makers might have just been too busy to make a decision. Here's what also might have happened to your decision makers over the summer. There could have been changes at the school. Here's what also could happen in the fall for your decision makers. The vendor they chose over you might not do a very good job, and they'll be wanting to talk to you. And when those 3 things happen, if you've been staying active, if you've been nurturing those leads, they will call you because you'll be ready, willing, and able to help. So here's the 3-part summer fix framework. First of all, reset your message. Most founders are still using a pitch that was good for last fall of 2024. But I'm not sure if you noticed this. A lot has changed since 2024. A lot changes in a year. Cue the new administration. You need to audit your current messaging. Are you speaking to today's pain points, which again have probably changed since January when the new administration came in? Ask yourself, what's your buyer's new urgency? Because their new urgency is probably very different than what it was when you spoke to them in fall of 2024. Also, you should update your Raise Your Hand campaign. We have talked about the Raise Your Hand campaign. When you listen, you can begin to understand the challenges of your decision makers. And then you can wrap that messaging, what they give to you, around your wonderful solution. Number 2, reactivate your audience. You don't need new leads, guys. You really don't. You need to be warming up the ones that you have. So you can reach out over LinkedIn or email to your past leads and just see if there's anything you can do to help, or mention something that might have happened late in the school year and update them. You can share story-driven content, wins, lessons, founder flaws. Yeah, founder flaws. Make it real. And share that content consistently on LinkedIn. Offer something valuable to your network. Maybe a free resource, maybe a lead magnet, maybe a short call, maybe a chance to coach them on something. And finally, if they're on LinkedIn, and most likely they are, and they post, you should comment. Because that's lifting somebody else up and not asking for anything from them. So, after you have reset the message, after you have reactivated your audience, you need to rebuild the signal. If you're not showing up, honestly, your audience thinks you've gone dark. What does that mean? You need to commit to 1 post a week on LinkedIn, but make it count. And if I can encourage you, I would say do 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 even. Think of LinkedIn like the gym. You will not get the results you want by going to the gym 1 time a week. Think of LinkedIn like a conference. And if this conference is going on in your particular niche, you need to be there 3 to 4 times a week. I want you to spotlight transformation as you rebuild the signal to your network. What does that mean? Talk about what has changed for the people you worked with last year or previous years. Talk about the true transformation that happens for your perfect client. Not features, not bells and whistles. The true transformation. Now, we have had other shows like this that can help you achieve the summer fix. I'm going to highlight them. First of all, April 2025, Busy Isn't Booked. One of my favorite titles. Too many founders confuse activity with traction. So I'm not just saying over the summer, do some activities and hope to get traction. We've given you a 3-step framework of what to do. May of 2024, slow burn methods for lead generation. You don't need to wait for fall to ramp up. So this episode, founder flaw right there. This episode shows how delayed action creates a cold pipeline. So check out that episode. May of 2025, check that. March of 2025, LinkedIn connection to contract. Why is this one important? Because visibility isn't about shouting louder. It's about showing up with value. Okay? Visibility isn't about shouting louder. It's about showing up with value. And this episode that I'm referencing here outlines a simple and powerful system to turn consistent summer visibility into booked calls. Now, I would like to go through some of the common mistakes that you guys should avoid. Waiting for back to school. Boom, duh. September is not your warm-up to get your network reactivated. Game time is actually over the summer, meaning June, July, August, you should be doing the steps that we just highlighted. Posting without purpose is another mistake people make. A generic post with no call to action is just noise. Every post should invite a next step, a DM, an opportunity to connect, a chance for somebody to download a lead magnet. And I want you to remember that these are some of the mistakes that people make. You can avoid them. But if you make them, or you have been making them, you can recover. A, we've given you this show. B, I listed 3 other shows. So we're here to support you. I want you to think about Ernie Delgado. He's the founder of Beyond Technology Education and a very good friend of mine who went through the Ed Sales Elevation experience. He used summer to dial in his messaging, and he re-engaged with old leads because Ernie had a ton of old leads because he's got so much trust built up. And by the time he got into LinkedIn, and by the time he had really worked on his signature solution and got a chance to talk to people, the deals started coming. He didn't run any ads. He didn't chase new leads. He just activated what was already there. You can do that. Listen, I'm going to give you one more call to action. I've given you a lot of calls to action in this show, but I'm going to give you just one more. If your lead gen is cold, don't wait for the fall to fix it. Okay? Use the next 4 to 6 to 8 to 10 weeks to really reset your message, re-engage your audience, and rebuild your visibility. Granted, I know you've got things to do over the summer, but just don't make the big mistake of not paying any attention to your pipeline over the summer. And if you want help, I got an idea. DM the words summer fix to me on LinkedIn. All you got to do is send the signal, the bat signal, right? Summer fix to me on LinkedIn, and I'll show you the first move you should make to get unstuck. I gotcha. So let's close this puppy very strong here. First thing you do, you reset your message. Second thing you do, you reactivate your audience. Third thing you do is you rebuild that signal. That's the 3-step summer framework. That's your summer fix, guys. Your fall sales depend on what you do now, and I could argue that your winter, your spring, and even next year's sales depend on what you do this summer. So let's build momentum that carries into Q4 and well beyond. You can do this, guys. Again, I've encouraged you to take a rest, and you should do that. You need to also be thinking about your own summer fix and how you're going to have success in September. I'm here to help you. DM me summer fix. And let's go, breakers.